My name is Ariane. I am part of the National Justice Project team and have the privilege of hosting this discussion panel today. I'd like to acknowledge that I am dialing in from unceded sovereign Bundjalung country and acknowledge that the National Justice Project is located on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we pay our deep respects to elders past and present. And in particular, those people and communities and elders that are leading the way in caring for community, because that's what we're essentially going to be here talking about today, is how community steps up to do the work and to support within community. This panel is around community expertise from the local frontlines, challenging police models. We are going to hear from Kristy Lee-Costello today, all around the incredible work of Murri Watch. And unfortunately, our other panellists had some personal reasons why they couldn't be here today. So it's actually going to be a nice, intimate discussion, and we get to really dive in to hear all about Murri Watch, which is certainly a privilege for us, Kristy Lee. So really, really grateful to have you here. And I guess just reflecting on this theme and this session, and I'm sure you'll talk a lot about it, but I guess what we hear and what we know and what we certainly heard this morning from those keynotes is that the power really does come from these community-led models that are directly responding to local community need. So there's no doubt that when we're talking about alternatives, this is the best we've got in terms of having it local, having it directly responding, and having it community-led. So really excited to hear from you. As with the previous session, everybody, we will be fielding some questions directly to our panellists, and then we will go to your questions. So please do use the chat to pop in any questions or comments that you have, and my wonderful colleague will be kind of sorting them through and getting them to me toward the end. I guess just bearing in mind, the chat is open, please use it, please engage with one another, but keep it please respectful. And of course, when we are talking about these instances that are happening in community and things that can be sensitive, can cause distress. So please do look after yourselves, do whatever you need to do to stay safe and well. And if you need to take a break or you need to access some extra supports, that information will be available in the chat. And please do reach out and stay strong and well during these discussions. For the best viewing, we suggest you use the speaker mode setting. And if you these sessions are being recorded, so if you are not comfortable having your image or your name, please do take that off. And I guess without further ado, I'm going to introduce our wonderful speaker today. We have with us Kristy Lee-Costello, who is a proud Waka Waka Mundunjeri woman with over 12 years of experience working with Murri Watch, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Corporation. She has dedicated her career to delivering culturally safe, community-led services that support and empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across Queensland. Kristy Lee has worked across all major Murri Watch programs. In 2019, she played a key role in establishing a collaboration between Murri Watch, Youth Justice and the Queensland Police Service to provide culturally appropriate supports to young people within the Brisbane City Watch House and across the state. While the Cell Visitor program was initially limited to adults for the past 30 years, it was since expanded significantly to include support for young people across 18 watch houses statewide. Kristy Lee's work focuses on advocating for First Nations people in vulnerable situations, reducing contact with the justice system, and ensuring all services are grounded in cultural integrity and community connection. Kristy Lee has developed strong partnerships with Aboriginal community-controlled organisations, non-profits, government agencies, and continues to be a leader in the sector, driving systemic change and promoting self-determination for First Nations communities. That is quite the introduction, Kristy Lee.
Oh, you make me sound amazing.
You are amazing. You are amazing. We are thrilled to have you, and yeah, just keen to get into unpacking a little bit more about these, over a decade of work with Murri Watch. So I guess to sort of kick it off, Murri Watch obviously does an incredible job across an array of initiatives to ensure alternative first responders responses instead of police. You have been with Murri Watch for a long time. To give the people in this session, I guess, a bit more background, could you just give us a bit of a snapshot on what is Murri Watch, what are the programs, and yeah, I guess maybe around like the need, how did it come about? Yeah, over to you, Kristy Lee. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I guess Murri Watch has been supporting First Nations people and communities in Queensland for about 34 years. So we started out with one program in Brisbane. So back in 1991, the Royal Commission ordered a investigation into deaths in custody, and out of that came Murri Watch. So our first line of funding was to provide that sort of welfare kind of check and be a kind of another eye in watch houses. So we started at Brisbane City. From Brisbane City Watch House, we've kind of grown to the 18 that we service today. We have a long way to go. There's 64 watch houses in Queensland, so 18 is only a small portion of what we could be reaching. So I guess our aim's always been around keeping our people safe and supported, supporting them to stay out of the justice system, so getting them out of watch houses as quickly as possible. Murri Watch has always been in that watch house space. So we're fortunate enough that Queensland government have acknowledged that there currently still is problems, and they're wanting to address these. So they very much value having a service like ours come in to watch houses and just be that link between people in the watch house and also with their families and the communities around, and just to support them getting, I guess, out of some of those situations that they're in. So at no point do we ever give legal advice. So we're not lawyers. We don't employ any solicitors or anything like that. We're purely there, I guess, as a community organisation that has the needs of our clients at heart, and we want to make sure that they're being looked after. If they need medical attention, that they're getting that. If there's information about a client's welfare or situation, that we are able to communicate that from family to watch house, so that the care is taken, I guess, as a needs thing. So currently Murri Watch, we service watch houses from Southport on the Gold Coast all the way up to Mareeba in far north Queensland. So we do mostly the East Coast kind of border. There are other organisations that do touch on sort of central Queensland, Mount Isa, Rockhampton, that we don't do, but Queensland government fund other agencies to do it. So I guess that's our cell visitor service. We provide that for both adults and juveniles. That service was our very first one, I guess. That's how we started. We've always stayed in this kind of space. Part of that was our diversionary program. So I guess one of the reasons why we work so well is because our services are all interconnected. So the pathways for people are already there. Back in the day, it used to be a lot around public intoxication, giving people alternative place to be rather than a watch house, so they would be able to we'd be able to transport them to our diversion centre. So our centre at Woolloongabba in Brisbane has 14 beds, and it's a rest and recovery centre. So they come in, they have a rest, we give them a feed, they have a shower. We support them around what do they need today. We're getting a lot of homelessness and mental health at the moment, so it's just we're really focused on the now. What do they need now? We can't solve everyone, the whole world's problems, but we can support people to find somewhere safe and stable. So that we know that if people have a house or accommodation, or they know where they're going to sleep that night, they think better, and we're able to provide some links to community. So we rely heavily on our stakeholders around us. So that, I guess that's our diversion centre. We also run a community patrol program across the state so we run it in Townsville and in Mackay. In Brisbane, we're only funded, I guess if we save money out of a bucket of money, we can do community patrol in Brisbane. So for some reason, Brisbane isn't a high priority for Queensland government around community patrol. But definitely is in Townsville, Mackay. Townsville, we transport, I think, about 14 to 15,000 people a year to safe spaces. So it used to just be the diversionary centre in Townsville, which is a 50-bed facility. Now it's all about safe spaces, so keeping people, just getting them out of the parks and giving them somewhere safe to sleep. Or if they're, wanting to stay where they are, we help provide sort of shelter for them, so tents and sleeping bags and all that kind of stuff. So it's really based on what the client wants. We listen to them. Where do they want to be? If they're feeling safe in the park, then we absolutely will not move them. We just, instead of police going in there, we go in and just make sure that people are, I guess, behaving, and there's no conflicts happening in that point of time. If police have concerns about groups of people in the parks, we have daily contact with them. Multiple times a day, police will call us and we will go and intervene rather than they do. If police need to go, then our community patrol service will absolutely go alongside with them. We absolutely try, if police, we have conversations with them all the time around if someone has a warrant, if they are wanted for questioning, if whatever it is, they will come to the staff, especially in Townsville, around how do we support that person to have safe conversations with police. So it works well in that community. We've developed this 30-year relationship with QPS up there that they know. We absolutely want to make sure that people are being safe and they're doing the right thing. But we want to support those that may not understand why police are chasing them or don't know why they're in the situation they're in. So our community patrol plays a really big part in Townsville in particular. We're a smaller scale service in Mackay that do some very similar stuff. And then, like I said, during peak seasons in Brisbane, we run it down here off our own backs. So as part of our diversion centre program, so we get people off and into safe spaces. What else do we have? We have a crisis support accommodation service at South Brisbane. So it's a 22-bed facility. So we support people facing homelessness, mental health, family violence. Most of the time, we bring them in. It's a safe space for them to stay, access healing services. They get, their own rooms. They're case workers on site every day. So that program, very popular, really hard to get into. We have a long list of people trying to get through. We have strong ties with Department of Housing, social housing. So people don't often stay at our hostel very long. They're usually there between 6 to 12 months and then they're housed in their own place. So we've managed to build some really good partnerships with different social housing organisations and Department of Housing.
Wow.
And then we've got our youth programs, which I said is one's linked to the watch houses statewide, and the other is currently we sit in Caboolture Watch House, which is where Queensland government decided that all young people would get put through one watch house rather than the 64 across the state. That was prior to them building a remand centre out at Wakehole. So our Caboolture program is it'll just get swallowed back up through the statewide, so that we'll still service that watch house. It'll just be more of a statewide. So we have partnerships with Youth Justice, Queensland Police, ATSOL, so the legal service in Queensland. There's a couple of other non-Indigenous organisations that also go in and support young people. So we work with those. There's a group of people for each watch house, and we work with them around getting young people out of watch houses. So I guess all in all, we focus on empowering our people. We try and wrap around support for each of them. We remain, connected to the communities that we work in. All of our staff, our frontline support workers, are First Nations people. They all live and work from the communities they are working in. So they all have those strong cultural connections before they even start with Murri Watch. So it's one of our criteria is that they need to be connected to the community that they worked in.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess that's us.
Amazing. That just sounds incredible to have all of those operating. I guess it's a bit of almost like a dream goal of what we're talking about all the time. So thank you. That's a really helpful oversight of those different elements of Murri Watch. I guess you just started mentioning it, but in terms of thinking about as a community-led org, what some of those key principles are to make sure that any of your responses and work is appropriate and culturally safe. You obviously mentioned, having frontline workers living and working within the communities, ensuring we're focusing on empowering people, and that wraparound support. Are there any other, elements that are sort of embedded within your model that make sure that people are really receiving support that is appropriate for them?
So I guess we are community led. So we have a board. We have community members that are highly involved in what we do and how we do it. We'd like to take a holistic approach and make sure that our clients are their needs are being serviced and they have the right connections. And if something's not working, we don't just give up. It's about trying again. We've got, so I did write some stuff down. So we find empowerment through knowledge. So knowing our local communities, knowing what each of the services are funded to do, but also what else they do. So that we all know that with grassroots communities, we are funded to do something, but there's always extra things that we go above and beyond. So just knowing what service does what they can and can't do, what they will and won't do, it helps when we're doing our referrals and having conversations with clients around how we can get them to the next step. So we're always building, strengthening connections within our communities, with our elders. Like I said, all of our frontline support workers are First Nations, so we make sure that all of those things are ticked, and we need to do those. Like, we just can't skip a step.
Yeah, they're just fundamental to how the services are provided.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. I guess you did mention police, and that it's been a partnership and that obviously you're at times working together or involving one another. I guess, could you talk a little bit more specifically about what that relationship is like between Murri Watch and Queensland Police Services? Yeah,
sure. So I guess it can be challenging, and there's challenges all the time. One of the things I guess that works for us is we're not funded by police. So Department of Communities in Queensland fund us. Queensland Police benefit from our service. So we don't have, I think that a lot of the time you have government bodies that fund you, so they kind of feel like they have a hold over you and you must do how they like them done. I guess for us, we're not funded by QPS, so the relationship is beneficial to both parties. When you take money out of the equation, it's always good. So there's no that kind of power balance. They, as part of their guidelines, they must let us in. They can determine when and how our access is. They can throw. Sometimes they say, that it's not a good time because there's been an incident, there's risk and things like that. But mostly, it's where we're able to access. We're a 24-hour service, so we can access watch houses pretty much any time of the day. But it is all about, so we've got 18 watch houses. Every watch house in Queensland is run by the officer in charge. So you have 18 different personalities, all interpreting their rule book, their policies and procedures, slightly different. So we really rely on our staff in the regions to keep a really good relationship going with watch houses. Picking our battles is one thing. It's about sitting back thinking, is that going to be do I want to fight that battle today? Or do I want to get in the watch house and just check on my client and fight that battle later? So it's that kind of, it's constantly having to, pick our battles for the day or the week or the month. Like I said, we have a pretty good relationship with most of our OICs. There's always going to be challenges in watch houses just because of the nature of the space. Some of our watch houses are just so grateful that we come every day. They call us multiple times a day. We will go in and just see people, and I guess it's that they know there's information that we can get out of clients that they can't. Especially if it's around, I guess, for example, we've had a young person in a watch house for 8 hours suffering with pains in the belly and under the ribs and stuff. And they said, they rang us, said, look, we don't know what's wrong. They won't talk to us. We've offered to get a nurse in to come and see. They've declined medical. So they ran through everything. And most of the watch house staff are generally want to make sure people are safe, because they also know that if they're not, if something happens, they're the first people that are going to get the finger pointed at. So our watch house officers that are there day to day rely on us to come in. So that young person, one of our cell visitors went in to see him, and it turned out to be nothing, but it could have been. So he was in a stolen car, he'd crashed it, he jumped out, he ran. He honestly believed that police didn't know that he was in that car. And so he wouldn't tell them that he was sore from the injury. And so we had to have that discussion with him about remembering that the watch house isn't the police that arrested him. They're not the ones that are dealing with the case. They just need to make sure that he's okay. So we ended up, getting him to see a nurse, and but that situation could have went the other way. He could have suffered in silence because he honestly thought that he was going to get himself into more trouble, or it was just lucky that it was just a bit of bruising and things like that. We ended up getting him to go to the hospital and get checked out. But that is just one example of things that they will tell us that they won't tell them. And I guess the other way around, there's things that the police information they need to relay to people, and they don't know how, or especially if we've got some cultural differences. There might be, someone with a Sudanese background working in the watch house, they don't know how to communicate. So we play a really big role in just keeping people safe and understanding what's going on for them at that point in time.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thank you. And what about, I guess, stepping outside the watch houses, what about in the community? So, for example, with the community patrols and things, is that when Murri Watch is engaged, are they engaged independently to attend and see what's happening and offer some supports, or they are engaged by police to go out to visit some community? How does that work?
Yeah, so we're definitely not, so like I said, we're not funded by QPS in any of our programs. So our community patrol service is out on the streets every day. We do a what we call a foot patrol in the mornings, where they'll go to the hotspots, jump out of the bus and just walk around and generally engage with people, get a bit of a sense of what people are needing that day. They do some transports to some hubs and stuff where if there's SENS leaks at one space or housing or another, so they do a bit of that type of a transport during the day to get people some assistance, in the hope that they will find their own safe space for that night. And then in the afternoons, we go back and do a second run, and we start looking at where are people going to sleep that night. So, like I say, we have a good partnership in most of our communities with police out in the community. We're not there to, I guess, do their jobs or find people for them. But if they are finding a particular situation or a particular person hard to deal with, they might ask if we already have a relationship with that person and would we help just, getting some information across. We're never there when people are being arrested. We don't walk into a space with them either. So they will give us the heads up that they might be looking for someone, or they think someone's in trouble. Could we go and help? And we will go rather than they go. We most definitely have them on speed dial if things start to get a little bit out of control, and we think we need that type of support. But I can't remember the last time we've had to ring police on anybody. So It's been a long time. But we have that type of relationship that we will intervene before police have to.
Yeah, then that's, even just that you can't even remember the last time you actually had to engage them, because obviously the model is doing what it's supposed to be doing is incredible to hear. I guess I want to move to just unpack a little bit more about your funding. So you obviously said you're not funded by the police. I think you mentioned DCJ or the equivalent there. I guess, so it seems like obviously you've been operating for a long time. You've clearly had some success with the funding. I guess curious to know how that funding journey has shaped your programs. Has it created any limitations or benefits? And I guess, any sort of strengths or challenges like linked to the funding issues, because obviously we know it's a great challenge for many programs and communities across is to get that really sustainable funding model. So, really keen to hear about that journey for you.
So yes, we are government funded, and it's state government funding. And it's been a bit of a struggle, honestly. Like we've been around for as long as we have, I guess, because Department of Communities have seen the value, QPS sees the value, we've got very big supporters around what we do. But we live on these 3-year cycles. So it can be at times a little bit uncertain as to what we'll get the next round, which can be challenging to retain staff, especially if they want security. We're only more recently moving towards the 5-year fundings, which is, great for us, great for our staff, great for the clients. They've got a bit of stability around. They know people are going to be around at least 4 or 5 more years. However, our funding can be limited. So it is, like, for example, our cell visitor service is watch houses, and it is only, so our adult service, there's only 13 watch houses on our list that we are funded to engage with. Doesn't mean that we can't do others, because we are, like I said, because QPS doesn't fund us, QPS is saying you can go into any watch house you want to go into. We love having the support, but we're only funded for 13 for our adult service, and 18 watch houses for our juvenile service. So it's very specific as to what we do. We are working with government at the moment to try and relax some of the wording in those contracts to enable us to kind of move a little bit more. Same with, I guess, our community patrol service. This is what we do and only what we do. I guess government, especially what I've found in Queensland, is that they do try and keep each of their funded organisations in their lane. So it's great that we've had long-term support, and I guess for us, there's always going to be a need in our communities for the types of services that we provide. There hasn't been any indication that the government are going to change too much about what we do in the near future. But yeah, it has really kind of restricted what we're technically funded to do, I guess. We all know that we do lots of other things, but what we're technically funded to do with those buckets of money, which is something that we're working on at the moment, is trying to get government to be a bit more relaxed around what our outcomes and stuff and how we record and provide that data back to them. They are asking a little bit more from us these days around what information we collect, and also what information we share back with them. So we're in a process at the moment of looking at how do we do that and how do we explain that to all of our clients, because it can be quite overwhelming, especially if you're already going through crisis, to have to sit down and listen to someone talk to them about where your information is going to be used and who's going to see that and what we're going to share. And so at the moment, the staff are struggling. My staff are struggling a little bit with that aspect of our funding agreements, is having to go over that confidentiality and information sharing stuff with our clients when they're in the middle of crisis.
Yeah, and the administrative burden that puts on already overstretched, resourced organisations. I think it's very common.
They tend to fund at the moment they tend to fund the service, not the admin, the data collection. They don't fund enough of the staff development, keeping our staff trained and making sure that the information they have is relevant. Government does not fund it. So we've got to find free training, or we've got to find little bits of money to keep our staff relevant, which is also a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm just going to go to one more question, and then I'm going to start going through the questions from the audience, because there's many in there that are amazing. So I guess just lastly from me, I guess just if you could summarize, I guess, the key elements that you would suggest to others to really take to policymakers and government around the why behind why the importance of these types of models, why the importance of shifting to community-led alternative models like yours. If you could sort of summarize the essence of the importance of this,
Sure.
What would you share?
So I guess I did look at this question before, and I think for me, the key points that I would highlight to policymakers is number one is cultural safety and trust. Governments need to trust that First Nations people know what First Nations people need and have the knowledge to provide that support and that service to them. I guess the other thing is around reducing harm and over-policing. So we know that community-led responses prevent the unnecessarily police intervention. They help people avoid the justice system. We also know that issues like homelessness, mental health and things like that play a role in that. Self-determination, so allowing First Nations people to control and direct responses, ensuring they align with every community is different. We know that. We know that what works in Brisbane doesn't work in Townsville or Palm Island. So we know that we need community-led responses for what works on their communities. We also know that holistic and effective responses address the underlying issues. So people don't just end up in watch houses or don't just end up homeless. There's always underlying issues as to why they're there. And, First Nations organisations live and breathe their communities. So they know what they are at any given point in time. I guess looking at proven success, so models like Murri Watch that we know work, and has worked for 30 years. I guess the cost effectiveness of investing in community-led models saves money in the long run. It prevents incarceration and connecting people with right services. Building stronger, safer communities. So our approach is strength-based, and we find the strengths in our communities and we build them up. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. That they are all incredibly important points, and certainly I think reflect perfectly the type of message that we need to convince those who aren't on board yet of. So thank you. Excuse me once. Now, Kristy Lee, we're going to go to some of the questions from the audience, and thank you everybody for contributing those. Sorry, what a little tickle. Firstly, from Marissa from Butcher down in Victoria, has shared, around this growing movement, especially within ACCOs, around ACCO-led models for custodial healthcare and alternative first responders. At Butcher, they are developing a new health justice campaign grounded in those visions. So really particularly interested in thinking about the voices of young people. So within all of these systems, out-of-home care, youth justice, adult prisons, sleeping rough, how can we make sure their experiences are shaping the messaging and the demands? And how can, we take learnings and drive the work down in Victoria to build something strong and community-led without being absorbed into the government systems and ways of doing?
Yeah, okay. So I guess it's a tough one, especially if you're funded through government. They tend to, like to determine what we're funded to and how we do it. I guess the strongest is just having that voice and knowing and making sure young people have that voice and know your community that you're in. It's not going to work everywhere that you go, but if you have I guess you need to find the right advocates in government that will give you the freedom to roll something out, give you some commitment that it's not just going to be a pilot project. That's the tough bit, is getting some funding. We've always looked at, in the last 5 years, we looked at philanthropic funding, which allows you that freedom to give you it, and allows you to change if something's not working. Yeah, so I guess, it's hard to get something that's yours and you own it and you want to be able to do what you need to do to make it work, especially if you're government funded.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons why we stay proudly independent. Thank you. Do you accompany, I guess we sort of touched on this, but we talked about, the call out. So I think you touched on this, Rhea. There was a question around, accompanying police for call outs, but as you mentioned, you don't go together. You are doing your work in community, and if police feel like they could benefit from your contributions, then they will obviously ask you to come and assist. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we currently don't go with police to call outs. We we will absolutely assist if they're wanting us to come and transport someone away from a place or a park or whatever it is, rather than, so the attitude is that we don't want to lock people up. So if it's just a bit of a nuisance call and they just need someone moved on, they will definitely call us to go and just transport that person to a safe space. Yeah. We absolutely don't want our clients to think that we are with police, which is why we don't do things necessarily together. We will come in our separate cars at separate times, and just stand with our clients and enable them to voice what's going on for them.
Yeah. Thank you. And just query around how community would connect with you, like out in the community. You know, can they call you? Is there a Murri Watch line, or is it really what you're observing and feel like you can contribute to when you're out in community already?
Both. So we're like I said, we're out to we do 2 runs a day to our parks, and then the rest of the time we're kind of just out. We get lots of referrals. So people call us, business owners call us, police call us. We have the city council who scan their cameras every morning. They call us and say, just letting you know, there's groups of people here, here, and here, and we just add that to us. So every day is different. We generally know when our hotspots are moving. But like I said, we have partnerships with everywhere. So local government, state government, we have business owners, lots of different people, community members, if something's going on or they know that, this has just happened, so they expect there's going to be a lot more people around. We get calls from lots of places. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you know how you mentioned, there might be a scenario where police would engage you to handle something or to intervene in something that you're best placed to do. Could you tell us what some of those scenarios might be where, Murri Watch essentially is stepping in as that alternative? Any more examples? And I guess wondering also whether there are additional situations that you would like to expand into or would like to be engaged in, where you feel like Murri Watch could have a good impact in terms of being that alternative to police involvement.
Yeah, so so I guess we would like to be able to, do a bit more in all the spaces we have. Unfortunately, our funding does limit us to how many staff we have out in the field, how much. We are wanting to try and get into a bit more of the accommodation space to be able to help people get, not just provide referrals, but be able to help people actually get into their own places and find the supports around whatever they need for that time. We find a lot of people in Townsville are coming from communities and kind of getting stuck there. So one thing that we don't have is a lot of, freedom around brokerage and things to be able to financially support people out of whatever's happening at that time for them, which is, we don't have brokerage as part of our Department of Communities funding, unfortunately. So we rely on just the bits of donations that we get in. Community will sometimes come together and do something for somebody. So we would love to be able to just, work out what that person needs on the day and just fix it for them. What was the other half of that question?
Just any other examples of, where you are acting as that alternative.
So I guess transporting people to safe spaces rather than police having to pick them up and take them to watch houses. Most of the time the safe space is like a diversion centre or a hostel or wherever they're staying. Sometimes it's got to be other family members. So if people are intoxicated, we also have that same kind of thing as police. So we can't just drop someone home if no one else is home. So QPS will call us also around that type of stuff, finding alternatives for people rather than if police do pick someone up and they've got to transport them home to a safe space because they haven't done anything wrong. They just, police can't physically leave somebody who's intoxicated out on the street in case something happens to them. So then they will call us and just say, look, we've attempted to take them home. There's nobody home. Could you come and help us find an alternative space for them to sleep at, or at least spend a few hours while they're sobering up, because they most definitely don't want to take people into watch houses. We've been asked to kind of just come and transport people away from they know there's been conflict in that area before. They might call us and say, look, there's a group of them hanging around again. Could we please try and move them along before police have to? So they'll absolutely call us if they think that we can prevent. We're more of a prevention service. We're trying to prevent them from being picked up. So they will call us just to try and intervene with if there's a couple of family members that are not getting along and we really don't want to have to arrest one of them. It's like, could you come and take one of them away? That type of intervention.
Yeah, wow. That's so important. You can only imagine how many potential additional arrests or charges and things have been prevented by having that alternative, which is, obviously what we're here talking about in this whole symposium. So it's incredible to hear. I have a question around, I guess, are there any programs or I guess subsets of programs and things that you do for access or cultural safety, particularly for young people and also mob with disabilities? Is there any sort of tailoring or any specific programs or anything related to that?
So I guess with our current funding, there's not a lot of program funds in it, built into it. We have, when we were engaging in the Caboolture Watch House, there was a lot of money around programs and being able to bring people in to run workshops. We did, like I said, we with the youth space, we work with a group of organisations. So it's not just Murri Watch. Our role is to be that link between family and community and young people and making sure that their voices are being heard. We really have our own, I guess, we're all funded differently. So we're funded for that type of work, that advocacy kind of stuff for young people, making sure that they're heard and their families are heard, and just kind of fix, solving whatever's on the table of the day. There's lots of reasons why kids get held in custody, and then sometimes it is purely just they don't have a suitable bail address, so the courts won't let them out. So we don't tend to be funded to do programs. There are lots of, so we lean on organisations that are funded to do that. So it's all about that knowledge, who can do what, and just making sure that people are doing what they're funded to do.
Yeah. And do you feel, side question, because we're always talking about, well, it's all well and good to have an alternative, but then there's got to be the support structures in place for people to actually get what they need. So do you feel that for the most part, the services and supports that people need in terms of outside Murri Watch, all of those stakeholders, they exist? It's that sort of almost linking people to them, that obviously you're filling that gap, that's the critical missing piece? Or do you still feel like within the supports and services that are available, there are still huge gaps?
I think it depends on the community you're in. There is always going to be a gap in service somewhere. But like I said earlier, it's all about knowing what an organisation is funded to do, what they can do outside of that. So, you know, there's always going to have to be conversations with government about what the gaps are. That First Nations organisations in general are always underfunded. That's just reality. We never have enough money to do what we need to do to service our clients and to support them and to build them up. We just need to make sure that we are in the know and that we know our communities, which is why we employ people that know the community. Because you always need to think outside the box when you're trying to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's really helpful. I'm just seeing a couple more coming through here. There has been a couple of questions and comments relating to, I guess, post-release supports. As you mentioned, you don't do specific programs necessarily, but I guess what is your role in supporting people who have been released, you know, formerly incarcerated peoples?
From prisons?
Yeah.
So currently Murri Watch, we don't access prisons. The only types of supports that we do provide people that are being released is, I guess, links into our hostel or our diversion centre. So we get a lot of calls and referrals from prisons around people that are being released on, if they're out on probation or parole or whatever it is, we have a connection with probation and parole around if there's a vacancy in our hostel. We take people and then we case manage them through that program. Sometimes people, as we know, just get released and don't know they're getting released until they are out the front door of the prison. So in those instances, we help them through our diversion centre. So adults will come through there. Diversion centre, we are, like I said, we're rest and recovery overnight. We provide lots of referrals out and we get services that come in and sort of support people to move on. But we've had people there for a few nights. It's not like we ever say no to people. If they need to be with us for a couple of nights before we can figure out where to move them, we do that. So those are probably the only two support services we have that are linked to prisons.
Yeah, thank you. We just have a few minutes to go. So just, do you have any connection with NDIS or anything like that? I think
not currently, no.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I guess one question that's just come through, you know, obviously we're seeing some alarming shifts in the NT, in Vic, in Queensland, and including, you know, this additional powers going to other quasi-police, security guards and the like. I guess, you know, everything under the guise of community safety. I guess, you know, what would be your, you know, first steps in terms of showing or, you know, convincing governments that rather than, you know, adding another layer of coercive roles, that actually supporting our strength-based models like Murri Watch would be more suitable?
I guess they just need to look at our history. We know that what we do works. Our numbers, you know, over the years have relatively been they've either stayed kind of stable about who our clients that we're supporting, or they've decreased in time. So we know that it works. We keep people safe and out of custody. We also know that for every watch house, we go into, you know, the numbers of deaths in those watch houses has significantly dropped. So some of them there's been none. Obviously, there's a couple of people that have passed in watch houses in recent years, and those were at times that we weren't there. So COVID, when we couldn't access things like that. So there's definitely, you know, there's definitely data there that says that what we do works, and they need to, like I said, they need to empower and trust First Nations organisations to run this and know that we know our people better than they do.
Absolutely. And I guess just finally, Kristy Lee, could you share, I guess, a positive story or something, I guess a positive reflection of, the change that is possible when we do invest in and trust in community to deliver alternative responses such as Murri Watch?
Yes. So one of my ladies gave me one today, and I was starting to read. I thought, oh, it's nice. So I'll read you a bit of a case study that I was given, and I was going to use something different, but I thought today I will use this one. So the case study was called Building Trust Through Cultural Connections, Supporting an Aboriginal Woman Experiencing Chronic Homelessness. So this was all part of our, sorry, I've got a thing on my screen.
Yeah, sorry, you got 50 seconds.
Okay, so she was Aboriginal female, mid-40s, presenting with chronic homelessness, mental health needs, difficulty engaging in mainstream services, long history of rough sleeping, unmedicated, just up and down. So our Brisbane Community Patrol team frequently engaged with her. And I guess it's one of those cases of they never gave up. They just kept checking in on her. So while she was well known across the homelessness and health sector, most mainstream services struggled to build that meaningful rapport with her, largely due to lack of cultural connection, trust, which is essential in engaging with Aboriginal